Namaskar. On behalf of the Project Self team, I wish you all a very, very blessed Shankara Jayanti, Adi Shankara Jayanti. It is his birthday today. And we have to pause a little bit to just realize and pay homage to the immensity of this incarnation on earth. Because had it not been for him, we wouldn't have had any of this knowledge. So very quick, very brief remembrance of him. Let's get into. Picture this. A young 8-year-old boy lands up after traveling miles on his feet, not by car, not by plane. He travels miles on his feet and arrives on the banks of Narmada. And there he goes to this little cave, very small cave, which still exists in Omkareshwar temple. If you ever go to Omkareshwar temple, which is a Jyotirling, make it a point. They will not take you there, your guides and whoever's with you. They'll just show you the temple and take you away. Make it a point to go to that cave. You have to bend down and go. It's very small. There sitting was his guru, Shankaracharya's guru, Govindpada, the disciple of Gaudapada. And he looks at this little radiant boy and is completely overcome by the immensity of who is standing in front of him. And he asks one question, Kastvam, who are you? And he didn't start talking about who he is. He's a little boy. He's left his mother. He's come searching for a guru. Nothing. What flowed out of him was Nirvana Shatakam. The 6 magical verses which people have been asking a lot in this class for us to cover. And I'm sure the Wisdom series will pick it up. Gina might take it up as her next project, or Project Self is committed to bringing Nirvana Shatakam to everybody in a very simple format. Nirvana Shatakam spilled out of him. And the 6 verses just talking about negation of what we are not and assertion of who we are. And the very first verse, when Govindpada asks him, Kastvam, who are you? The very first verse he starts with, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am not the vasanas, I am not the memory, I am not any organ of action. And then those famous lines which are a refrain throughout. Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am that eternal self. Now look at this story and just look at what we have been studying. Does it ring a bell? In the last few verses that we covered, does it ring a bell of what the Gita is saying and what were the first utterances of an already enlightened Shankara? I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am not my vasanas, I am not this world. I am the eternal self. And that is that man who gave us then all the commentaries, especially I'll just stick to the Bhagavad Gita because that's what we are covering. Another story, very important story. The same Shankara who already knew at the start that he was the eternal self, the Atma. One day on the banks of Varanasi, on the banks of Ganga in Varanasi, another place as spiritual seekers we must go to. It's life transforming, that entire experience of Varanasi, especially Manikarnika Ghat, where 24/7 bodies and bodies are burned before you. People bring dead bodies from all over the world, not just from India, because it is said in Varanasi, superstition maybe, but it is said that in Varanasi you get moksha if your body is burnt over there. It's such a magical sight that when you go there, you'll see thousands of pyres and just bodies. They're bringing one after the other and bodies are burning. So over there, he was coming down from the steps and a Chandala, an untouchable, Achut, came in front of him. Now, some commentators said that his disciples said it. Whichever said, what was said was, move out of the way. Why was that said? Because Shankaracharya was a Brahmana and this person was a Achut. And this untouchable looks up wide-eyed at the congregation there with Shankara and says, who are you asking to move out? This body, which is made out of the same 5 elements for everybody? Or is it the Atma, which is eternal and which is one, which is the same in me and you? Who are you asking to move out of the way? And immediately Adi Shankaracharya realized that this was none other than Lord Shiva himself, come to teach him and teach the world the ultimate lessons that for any seeker of Vedanta, three things are non-negotiable. Three things cannot be tolerated. Please write these down, these three things, if it ever comes in any aspect of your life. Number one is distinction within castes. Another thing that we have spent a lot of time in already our two books, and we will be spending if we go ahead, on explaining to you what the Varna system is, what the caste system is. It's just mental temperaments. So very important to understand, to never differentiate between castes. It's just not done. Second most important lesson is gender differentiation, man and woman. Wherever in your life you feel that I am a man and I am greater and a woman is lesser than me, you're not a Vedantin at all on any level. And the third most important thing, which the Bhagavad Gita has worked very, very hard to bust that myth, to bust that entire myth of superstition. Yes, there are shastric reasons why we do something, why we do anything in our life, why we perform rituals. All those rituals have a place. But if you don't understand them and you become fanatic about those rituals, it doesn't make sense. And Shankaracharya has worked very, very hard on these three things all through his life. Saundarya Lahari, which I figure is going on in one class, has exemplified, has absolutely glorified womanhood, Shakti. So these three things we should remember. Why I bring these things up consistently is that all this knowledge has to make sense. It has to mirror what we are doing in our life, so we understand what is the right thing to do. Okay? Having said that, coming back now to the Bhagavad Gita, I'm not going to go over the revision of what has been covered so far because we have recordings, we have wonderful slides, but we will look at the very last verse, verse number 29 that we did 2 weeks ago. Sorry for the break, but that verse said, it's on page number 227 if you have the book. It said, Ascharyavat vat pashyati kaschidenam, Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyaha, Ascharyavat chaina manyo. Still others hear of it as a wonder, yet even after hearing about it, most people cannot comprehend it at all. So over here, when he talks about it is about the Atma. So we discussed this in great detail, a phenomenal video, which talks about the wonder of creation. It talks about the wonder of creation. Now, if you listen to that video, you will be questioning yourself. You're this one dot on a planet that is spinning in space, held by some gravity, and you have so many problems. Look at how everything is held together. It is a wonder that you cannot really negotiate with. What this verse is saying, everything, those wonders that you are so gobsmacked with, all those wonders come from that one wonder, which is Brahman, which is Atman, which is impossible to understand, listen to, talk about, realize. And it doesn't stop there. The aim of Bhagavad Gita is Tat Tvam Asi. You are that wonder. So while we are completely flabbergasted by what we see around us, what is more fascinating is that the Gita is saying, you are the very creator of this entire wonder. So that was the verse that we looked at. If you are joining new, please go through the recording if it is there. And if you have any questions on this, please write in the Q&A so we can go over it if you're new especially. Now, what was said in that last line of that video, that is why I asked you all to see it, to watch it. And I'm trying to connect it back to Shankaracharya. He's described the entire wonder, and then he says something quite startling. He says, you have done nothing to deserve being on this planet in this time. And that completely shook me. Because what our Shastras say, and this is very important to understand for you all, so that you all know how to approach this opportunity of pursuing knowledge that has come into your life. So to completely dismiss what he said, that you have done nothing, I am going to read out to you the translation of verse 2 of the Vivek Chudamani, one of the most profound works of Adi Shankaracharya to defy what he has said and to just make you understand of how you have earned it. You have earned your place on this planet, and leave that aside. You have earned this contact with the knowledge. So verse 2, right at the offset, what Shankaracharya says in the Vivek Chudamani is, for all living creatures, a human birth is indeed rare. Much more difficult it is to attain full manhood, as in to come to this age that we have come to. So many people die right at the beginning, and it's not just chronological age, even this age of understanding to pursue the scriptures. Rarer than this is a sattvic attitude in life, which all of you have. Because you are seeking the scriptures, you're seeking answers within the scriptures. Even after gaining all these rare chances, to have steadfastness on the path of spiritual activity, as explained in Vedic literature, is yet rarer. This is where your Purusharth comes in. Yes, once a week class, twice a week class is great. But what are you doing beyond that? This is Shankaracharya saying, okay? Take it as a message from him. Much more so to have a correct knowledge of deep significances of the scripture. You are blessed that you are in touch with the ultimate knowledge, which is Bhagavad Gita. Maybe not with this class, but now that you have understood there is a Bhagavad Gita, whichever class you go to, please pursue it because you have earned it. It's not just fallen on your lap for nothing at all. Discrimination between the real and the unreal, a personal experience of spiritual glory, and ultimately to get fully established in the living consciousness that the self in me is the self in all, these come only later on. And it will only come through Mananam and Nididhyasana. So that you have come to the knowledge, you have earned it. Now what you do with the knowledge is what is going to be your Purushartha. And it ultimately culminates in liberation. This kind, please listen to this, kind of a perfect liberation cannot be had without earned merits of 100 crores of lives lived intelligently. Please remember that always. So that you are in this class or any other class or just even holding the Bhagavad Gita in your hand, he is saying this. It's the earned merits of 100 crore lives lived intelligently before this. None of this knowledge is new to you. It's there within you. You're just picking up from where you've left off in the past life. That brings me to the next verse that we are to cover today. Verse number 30 on page number 234. Dehi Nityamavadhyoyam Dehe Sarvasya Bharata Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani Natvam Shochitum Arhasi. So looking at this verse, we break it down. O Bharata, please pay attention to that word Bharata. And it's not only him that is Bharata, we all are Bharata. We have already split the word for you. Bha means knowledge and Rata means reveling in knowledge. So that we are in contact with the knowledge and we are constantly contemplating, hopefully, on the knowledge. We all are Bharata. Again, when Krishna says it, at least to me, how it appears is, you know it all. Just remember it. How can we not know innately if they are saying you are Atma? Of course, there is some cognizance, right? Yes, there is something eternal within us. It's just a matter of remembering that. Swami Ramatirtha says, why are we so shocked with death? It's such an inevitable aspect. We're looking at it all around us. Why are we shocked with this most natural phenomenon? Because innately, a part of us is hooked onto that immortal, eternal, indestructible part, which is called Atma, which this verse is talking about. We know that innately. We know that within our Zehen, it's a Hindi word, within our Ruhu. But unfortunately, we've forgotten that. And that is why we are lost in this, completely lost in the optics of what is surrounding us. So we know that. So what he's saying over here, Bharata, you know it, just remember it. The Atma Dehi, please understand it is singular. Over here, it said Atma. So the Atma Dehi, it has said, singular, residing in the bodies Dehe. That has become plural. So there are many bodies but there is one singular Atma that is residing in all the bodies of all beings, is eternal, Nityam. Okay, exactly what Shankaracharya spilled in Nirvana Shatakam. He didn't introduce himself as Shankara, I'm 8 years old, I've come, blah, 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 blah. He introduced himself as, I'm none of this. I am that eternal Dehi, Atma, and cannot be slain. That Atma cannot be touched. We've already looked at this in great detail, cannot be burned by fire, cannot be wet by water, all of that. Please go back to the old recordings. You should not grieve. Please do not grieve for any of these beings. It's quite self-explanatory, does not need a lot of explanations over here. One thing that should be clear with you in this verse is, number one, your body, your personality, your incarnation, let's say, splits into two. There is one aspect of you, which is the eternal Atma, which you essentially are. And then you are the body, mind, intellect, vasanas, whatever else. What this verse is doing, reminding us again, this part of us, the material aspect of us, the mortal apparatus that we walk around in and everything that goes with it is destructible. And it is inevitably destructible. Nothing can stop it, that end. But within that is that Dehi, that eternal Atma, which goes on forever. Now, we don't know about eternal Atma yet, but we have assured you in our previous classes that with the body, even what you know, kind of know, your mind and intellect and vasanas will carry on. Just yesterday, one student lost her mother and she said she had dreams. She had so many dreams. Young, she wasn't very old. She was 62. And she said she had so many things to do in her life. And what helped her, she's way ahead in the classes, was a reminder of this verse. That there is an aspect, all your dreams, your desires, whatever it is, will fructify in time. Your mind and your intellect, your vasanas, your desires, your karma is going ahead. It's not being lost with this death of the body. So something that we have to keep remembering. So that we have to remember, for one. And the practicality of it is the inevitability of this. We know that we are in this mortal encasement. The minute you come out of the womb, you have started walking towards your tomb. I don't know for y'all, but after a certain age that I am at, birthdays are less celebratory. I mean, they are a good celebration, but they just start reminding me that, I'm closer to that end. It was exciting before that, oh my God, I have this whole life to live in front of me, what Gen Z keeps saying. But now it's the other way, right? Now we are going towards the end. So we've climbed the hill, not me. I'm talking about myself, okay? All of y'all, I'm sure, are very, very young. I'm just talking about myself. But I'm at the top of the hill now, I feel. And now it's a downward roll. So that is something that we have to keep reminding ourselves, not in a pessimistic way, to make sure the next journey is fruitful. What has Shankaracharya said? 1,000 crores of lifetimes of intelligent living. Let this be the most intelligent life. Then we are sorted for what follows. Now, in this verse, what I want to bring your attention to very quickly is this word, tasmat. Okay? Tasmat sarvani bhutani. It comes in the second line, right? The Sanskrit word, tasmat. Now, tasmat translates as therefore. Why I'm resting your attention on this is continuously through the Bhagavad Gita, you will hear this word, tasmat. Now, what does therefore mean? Therefore means there's been a series of statements, declarations, truths being set forth in front of you. There's been a series of that. And then there's a conclusion. There's a definitive, assertive conclusion. There's not somebody who's just saying, this is what I'm saying, and you please follow. And that is the beauty of the dialogue of this scripture, is that nothing is said from a place of my way or the highway. For every tasmad that is said, for every conclusive declaration that is made, you have to go back to see the previous statements that have been made. What it teaches us is that the Nyaya tradition talks about it. I'll talk about it briefly. To engage with truth, there are three ways to engage with truth. Okay. One is called Jalpa. Jalpa comes from Rajas. And what is the goal of Jalpa? To win this argument, no matter what. You're not even waiting to listen to what the other person is saying. That famous quote comes from this type of engagement, which says, you're not listening to understand, you're listening to reply. Right? So that is Jalpa. You have to win. You have to win. What I'm saying is the ultimate truth. Everybody else is nonsense. And it comes from Rajas, very karmic binding. Remember, Vacha, speech, is one of the ways we make karma. So it's very karmically binding. The second one is Vitanda. It comes from Tamas. So Tamas is just, Vitanda would be just, the goal of it is to completely destroy the other person. The art of breaking somebody down. Gossip, talking bad about somebody, that comes in this. And you remember the karmas which we did in the Demystified series, and we talked about Nishiddha karma, karmas that we shouldn't do. Vitanda is one of them. To bring somebody else down just to make yourself feel greater. One of the most karmically worst ways to engage in the pursuit of truth. And then the most ultimate way of engaging with truth is Vada. And Krishna says in chapter 10 in Vibhuti Yoga that all the arguments, I am Vada, which is logic. And this is what the Bhagavad Gita is on. It's not fluff and glory. It is logical yoga shastre. It is logical statements made one after the other. And throughout the Gita, you will hear the word tasmat. So for you to really benefit from the Bhagavad Gita, please, wherever there's a tasmat, circle it and go back and read 10 verses before it. And every teaching will start going deeply within you. So to conclude, we reread the verse carefully. O Bharata, you know this. It is in you. You just have to remember it. Knowledge is part of who you are. Remember it. Rata, revel in it. Mananam, nididhyasanam, shravanam. Keep doing it day and night. Don't stop. Don't stop till your last breath. Swami Chinmayananda used to say, I will study, I will do japa till my last breath. So we don't stop. Bharata, the Atma, Dehi, that eternal aspect within us, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, I'm only that, residing in the bodies, Dehe, of all beings is eternal. It is Nityam and cannot be slain. It cannot forget slain. It cannot be touched. It cannot be touched in any way, not by censure, not by praise, not by anything. Therefore, you should not grieve. Na shochitum arhasi has been a refrain in the last few verses. Please read again. Please do not grieve. Not only over death, we're not about death. We understood death as change, any change in the world. Do not grieve because it is going to be that way for any of these beings or for any of the circumstances that you pass through. Thank you.
Thank you, Avanti. That's really beautiful. That covered the whole shloka. I'll try to cover a little bit of different, meaning complementary perspective. That's it. But before that, let me also acknowledge Shankaracharya's Janmadina or birthday. So, couple of additional points on Shankaracharya. I personally attracted to Gita after reading the commentary of Shankaracharya, because when I read, those who cannot even read the full commentary of Shankaracharya, at least you can read the 2-page introduction he has given on Bhagavad Gita, Upothkhada. We will cover that once we cover the second chapter. What we will do is we will just cover that line by line, because this group is ready to receive that kind of teaching. It's so amazing. Like, even the first line itself is so good. And in that 2-page commentary only, he defined what is the objective of the Bhagavad Gita. Praninam Sakshat Abhyudaya Nishreyasa Hetuhu. That's from his introduction. Why somebody is studying Bhagavad Gita? It is for twofold benefit. One is your economic, social welfare, Abhyudaya, and Nishreyasa is the spiritual progress. So you're presenting a body of knowledge, you're giving a teaching, which is not only elevate you from the material world. Again, underline that it is not running away from the world, but at the very same time, make you progress in your spiritual journey. So this one line, praninam sakshat apidaya nishreya saheduhu. That is the vividho hi vedotyo pravurti lakshano nivurti lakshana. That is how, like, this is defined as pravurti lakshana and nivurti lakshana. It's a balance of both. Your mind will be extremely contemplative, quiet, controlled, but you will be hardworking. This is the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita, and that is highlighted by Shankaracharya. That is one aspect. And the second aspect is, if you really look at Shankaracharya, he, like as Avanti said, as a child, he left his home around 7, that is the tradition says, we don't know. At that age, 7, he composed his first stotra, which is Kanagadhara stotra. That itself is amazing. The praise of the divine, the way he composed, the language, everything was masterly, amazing. And then once he went to this Bhagavad Pada, Govinda Pada, after studying the whole scripture, the first assignment given to Shankaracharya was to write a commentary on Vishnu Sahasranama. It is said that he wrote this at the age of 10 or 11. Even now, when we study Vishnu Sahasranama, that is the masterpiece. So it analyzes the 1,000 names of Vishnu in the most logical manner. And what amazed, well, actually, I was amazed by like the analysis he has done. In the introduction of that Vishnu Sahasranama, he starts saying that these 1,000 names can be bucketed into 3 buckets. One is Vishnu as the Brahman, the absolute reality, Nirguna Brahman. That is one. If you really look at the Vishnu Sahasranama, you see a set of names which falls into that bucket. And the second category is Vishnu as the universe, Vishwarupa. So you see Vishwam, for example, the first name itself. That means the entire universe is Vishnu. So second, there is a set of names fall into that category. And the third set of name is Vishnu as the Chaturpuja Vishnu or the incarnation of Vishnu. So that's all these combined together. Look at the way, because at the time this analysis and classification was not that much prevalent, but that is how he approached. And one more point I wanted to highlight about Shankaracharya. He has written as many stotras as possible. So in his time, all these different traditions were fighting. Shaivites were fighting with the Vaishnavites, and the Shakteya itself had almost 500 plus traditions. So what he did was he didn't reject anyone. He accepted everyone and he composed stotras, he composed aradhana, everything for each of these tradition and standardized everything into one umbrella of Advaita Vedanta. So the Advaita is there, but within the Advaita, how these manifestations can come, and he created brilliant shlokas for Shiva, Vishnu, Devi, Muruga, everyone. This is the glory of Shankara. And studying the work of Shankara itself is amazing. Like, if you want to study Shankara, if you study Shankara, that's good enough to study the entire Advaita Vedanta. Final point before we go to the Bhagavad Gita. Without Shankara, we would not be sitting here and studying Bhagavad Gita. You know, right? The Bhagavad Gita was 701 shlokas in 100,000. To be precise, 87,500 shlokas. Imagine, how can somebody even find 701 shlokas when you have like an epic of Mahabharata, which is 87,500 plus shlokas. So up until even though this was written long time back, up until Shankara, it was not that popular. Obviously, there were 1 or 2 commentaries, but it was not even read by anyone. So it is Shankaracharya who understood the importance of Bhagavad Gita. Even though it was part of Mahabharata, it was part of the epic, he pulled out and published that as a separate book by writing a masterpiece commentary. So that's another thing. And even now, in every traditional Vedanta teaching tradition, whether it is Chinmaya Mission or Arshavidya Gurukulam or any such teaching tradition, when they teach Bhagavad Gita, it's through Shankara Bhashya. Even our book, we have been following Shankara Bhashya very faithfully. This is the glory of Shankara. And that is why there is a famous shloka, Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Shankaram Shankaracharya. Keshavam Badarayanam. Sutra Bhashya Krito Vande Bhagavantopa. The tradition says it is Shankara is Shankara. Shankaracharya is Shankara himself. And Vyasa is Vishnu. Their combination created the original work and all the commentaries and sutras. That is the glory of Shankaracharya. And without Shankaracharya, this tradition would not have been alive. So we all owe El Rishirina to Shankaracharya. So this is the time we sit and remember him. Okay, that's good. So let's come back to the Bhagavad Gita. So I think Avanti covered every points of that shloka, but like what I'm trying to do is connecting the dots and connecting this to the previous section and next section. So this is kind of a bridge shloka between topic 3 and 4. So if you really look at topic 2 of the second chapter, it is talking about the glory of the Atma. What exactly is the Atma? What is the nature of the Atma? From the standpoint of that infinite Atma, there is no death, there is no growth, there is no decay, there is no change. That is what we know. But from our practicality, from our Vyavaharika Satya, from our empirical reality, we know that there is birth, decay, growth, and death. So from the first point of view, from Shloka 11 to 25, Krishna said that essentially you are that infinite, right? It's like death and birth are nothing but the ripples in that ocean. Nothing is happening to the ocean or the waters. So that is one perspective. And then from 26 to 29, he said, let's say that if you don't get it, see, there are two perspectives. One is from that infinite perspective. Second one is that finite perspective. Right now, we are all sitting in that finite perspective. When you are a dream, you know that the dream is reality at that point of time. If something happens to you in the dream, at least in the dream time and space, you will suffer. So right now, we are in this time and space, and we have to deal with every problem here, like old age, death, disease, and happiness. Everything you have to deal with that. You cannot skip that part while you live here. So when you have that, if you are still in that frame of reference, if you cannot think outside of that dimension, still there is no point in worrying over certain things. Because there are certain facts and there is no point in worrying. If you are born, there is only one thing that is certain, that is death. So there is no point in. Of course, you will be sad, you will grieve, but remember the word used is anishochanti. There is no need to get into that extreme grief, perpetual suffering. There is no need. That's why in our tradition, like there are certain number of days to mourn. Like in my part of the world in India, it was like 16 days. After that, you do a feast, and then the life has to move on. That is what the tradition teaches. So, if you are living in that relative reality where there is death, birth, and everything, still you have to move on. Why? Jatasya he dhruvo murtyu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Tasmad apariharyarthi natvam shochitum arhasi. This is what Krishna was telling at that time. So this is very important. And now he is just reconciling these two teachings. That is what this shloka is. He said, Pehi nityam avathyoyam dehe sarvasva bharata. So the first perspective, that infinite perspective, is Atma, or the truth, or the infinite. Remember, actually Avanti pointed out, it's extremely important how grammatically perfect is Gita is. So one is singular and the other one is plural. How many Atmas are there? There are billions of, maybe trillions of bodies if you count the animals. But there is only one Atma, right? The sun is only one. Every buckets of water reflects that sun. So the reflective consciousness, which is the Jivatma, is many, but the original consciousness, the true consciousness, is only one. So Dehi Nityam Avathyoyam. That original consciousness, Atma, is Nityam Avathyoyam, ever indestructible. And this Atma pervades the entire body. Dehe Sarvasva Bharata. This Atma gives existence to all the bodies. This Atma gives consciousness to all the body. So, in other words, there are two perspectives. The Atma, if you look at the perspective of Atma, nothing is changing, nothing is dying. But if you look at from the perspectives of the body, everything is changing, everything is dying. This is the fact. So that is the reconciliation happens. So Dehi Nityam Avathyoyam. Therefore, that is also very important. The style of the Bhagavad Gita is, you shall believe because I said it. Krishna tells to all of us, to Arjuna, and through Arjuna, all of us. What exactly? Tasmat sarvani bhutani. Therefore, for all living beings, death or birth, there is natvam shochitum arhasi. There is no need of perpetual suffering. That is the essence of this shloka. And look at the practicality of it. This is probably the most practical way of life. Like I speak to, meaning I was talking to a couple of people, and like they are 80s or 90s, and still, meaning late night, meaning I was able to talk to some people, 90s, still the fear is not gone. 75 years is the average life of a human being. Anything above you get is a bonus. So it's not that you should be willing to die or anything like that. Understand that. Okay. Okay. So therefore, just understand that and be grateful for the life you got and also be responsible. Like that is the next topic is coming to. See, the life, the number of days you get is the gift of God. But what exactly you do with that life? Are we just living just for gossiping or are we doing something meaningful? That's it. So just have a purpose, and that purpose is very important in our life. So in Ramayana, like when Valmiki wrote the Ramayana, he said, "Why did you took this pain and wrote this whole Ramcharita?" He said, "I know, like it is there in the commentary of Valmiki Ramayana." He tells, "I know, like if I was like a feather or like a leaf, there was no purpose when I was Ratnakara. When that Ratnakara turned into Valmiki with a purpose, imagine what came out of it. What happened was like that part of the life came so meaningful, not only for himself, but to the entire universe." This shloka helps us to ground us with certain facts. And in Mahabharata, there is a famous portion called Yacha Prashna. Like Yudhishthira was asked, meaning all these Pandavas were asked by one Yaksha certain questions. Nobody will answer. Finally, Yudhishthira came. And Yudhishthira was asked, "What is the greatest wonder of the universe?" He said, "Everybody sees death every day, but they think that they live forever." That is what we know, that even the days we have is obviously maybe 50 years or 100 years, but even that 100 years is finite, right? That's it. So I'll stop by just commenting, quoting the Mohamudgara or the Bhaja Govinda. We may spend our entire life to seek Artha and Kama. And when that scholar, that is where to whom Shankaracharya said, Nahi nahi rachati dugrinchi karane. Like the grammar rule you're studying, or the billions of dollars you're earning, or the mansions you're building, or any such things will not help you when the death come and knock at your door. Swami Vivekananda, I talked about this many times, but I cannot but tell this again. Rockefeller was talking to Swami Vivekananda. He said, "I do have everything. How do your teaching help you to live peacefully?" He said, "My teaching will help you to live peacefully. Without this, it will not happen." So That's the power of this teaching. Okay, let's pause here and ask any questions.
Let's read the reflective prompt and the quote, which we have worked so hard on all these little nuances of the book for. So if you go to the page number 238, you have to answer these questions. You don't have to just listen to it and say, wah, 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 wah. To go home and answer it in a book with pen and paper, preferably not even on the computer. How can internalizing the inevitability of death and aligning more firmly with the eternal truth of Atma bring more peace and purpose to your daily life? And please, always, wherever there's death, many of us may not be really concerned about death. But please understand, we did one entire session where we discussed that death is like change, any change in our life. So I'll give you one quote to think about. It's the ego is in a hurry because it knows it's limited. The Atma is calm because it knows it's eternal. So anything that you wish for that is not happening, just relax. Even if it doesn't happen in this life, if it is aligned to Dharma, it'll happen in the next life. So just think, anywhere you find this change, how are you going to align with Atma and not get disturbed by it? And the quote is, it's a declaration by Krishna. What perishes is not you. What endures, what remains is your truth. That is you. Tattvamasi, what the Bhagavad Gita says you are.
Excellent. Any questions, or even from last week's class, karma? Any questions? Rohitji, I just wanted to answer one of the questions you asked. The X factor you were asking in the class. I know that it was not answered completely. So just wanted to come back and revisit. The X factor is the karmic effect. Because let's say that I'm putting 5 units of effort, and let's say the current of the river is like it's completely against my karma. Then what happens? If I put 10 units of work, I should have got the results in proportionate to 10 unit of work. So between me and my result, there is always an X factor. And that's the karmic effect for the prarabdha. So that's essentially it is. So I know that in the discussion, it just got sunk. So just wanted to clarify that point. And that is what we call as Deivam in karma world. Remember the Bhagavad Gita we talked about, because what happens is when these type of guest lectures comes, we have gone like much details. So we identified the karma into 5 different karmas and all those details. These type of generic lectures, they will stay a little bit higher. Right. So that's the challenge. Okay. Good. Thank you.
I just wanted to add, actually, we'll try and highlight that particular episode, Rajesh ji, where we've talked about this Devam. He's done such a brilliant job in covering it. So if you go back to that, you'll get your answer over there. You know what that X factor is. We spent a lot of time on that. We'll try and lift up that episode where it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I studied those, and that's one of the reason I asked the question.
Yeah.
Because the only she basically pointed out that it's only prarabdha and purusartha are the laws of karma, and there's definitely something more.
It's very high level, right? So the difference is like we drill down, double click, triple click, all we went to the deep. And when it's because in a generic class, to the speaker's benefit, in a generic class, they because usually when they go to a class, most of the people have even not heard about karma, so they have to stay at that very high level.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but the thing is that we spent 10 classes, so that's the difference.
Yes, that's true.
You're getting, let me assure you, I mean, I was just reading the book all the way to the end through the last 2 weeks because I was traveling and I was in and out of Singapore. It's phenomenal. I'm not saying it because we've written. I promise you, I'm not saying it because we've written. Anybody had written this book, I would have said it is so well articulated. Everything is so well put together. And the reason for this class is that wherever, see, how much can we write in a book, right? That already it's so thick, but it's not thick because of the content matter. It's thick because we've used bigger fonts for people to read at ease, and we've had diagrams and all of that. But how much can we write in one book? Each day, Gita is evolving more and more with what's happening in the world. So that's why we designed these classes, so that we could add to what is being written over here and support what is being written over here. So my thing is, until you finish the book, don't look no further until you finish these classes. And then, of course, explore more. Don't ever stop at just these classes. But it's there. Everything is there. Even the Karma Demystified series, which we're going to put into a book, I don't think that I have come across any greater coverage, in-depth coverage, as was done in those 10 classes.
And that's why it's taking time also. Like sometimes, for example, the third chapter we covered up to 15, 16 shlokas, but now I'm revisiting everything because it's hard, because sometimes you have to put a full stop, but you never get satisfied. Any other questions, comments?
So I'll just share something quickly. Swami Swarupananda, head of Chinmaya Mission Global Head, was over here, and he was saying something very interesting. He was saying the necessity, in fact, a video of Gurudev's also played. The necessity of that verse. They've come up, Chinmaya Mission has come up with Panchamrit, Gita Panchamrit, 5 most important verses of the Bhagavad Gita. I can send them to you what those verses are, and they're so amazing. So the first verse is Uddharet Atman Atmanam. Lift yourself by yourself. And in that, Gurudev says that yes, all these classes and all are fine. But without that mananam, which we've been stressing, contemplation on your own practice, your own whatever sadhana you put together, you're not going to be able to evolve. So that is why we've put that question answer, WhatsApp group, which is outside of the class, so that what you taken from here, mull over it a lot. And from that, let a question arise. But what happens is, if we listen to a lecture and we immediately ask a question, we are missing what has been given, you see. And answers have to come from within. They may be the wrong answer, but then they can be righted. So make it a point to just mull over what was. And what Rajiji said, we're taking it slow. One verse is not too much to read over and over again during the week. It's so easy to do that. So just read over the commentary, any other commentary, think about it, read over that verse. So it really embeds. Yes, I agree. There was a lot of thought put into that Karma Demystified series. I agree that it was one of the best coverage. We have to turn it into a book. There's no doubt about it. It was very, very well covered.
Okay. If that is the case, one of the most important, another important shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita about Sudharma, we will cover next week. Thank you.
Thanks. That is